Is there a key to success in Amazon interviews? And I actually do believe there is one such key to success. And to prove my point, I'm going to present you with 4 scenarios of people who are far more likely to pass these interviews. First scenario is when you prepare all possible questions on Amazon's leadership principles, or most possible questions on their leadership principles, you are more likely to understand why the question gets asked during the actual exchange, and therefore, if you know what they're looking for, you know what to provide them, right? Or at least in theory, you are far more likely to give the best possible answer, right? You understand why the question gets asked, and therefore you give your best answer. This would be number 1. Second scenario is when they perform a backbone test. So many candidates lack backbone or lose their backbone in a job interview for the sake of social cohesion. They want to show they're a nice person. They don't disagree just for the sake of disagreeing. Essentially these things. I have another couple of videos where I gave backbone test examples. So people who spot these backbone test examples, you know they are performing a backbone test on you, you are far more likely to pass that test as well, right? Because you know why the question gets asked. You know you don't want to agree just for the sake of social cohesion, and therefore you pass, all right? Scenario number 3 is when something goes wrong during a job interview, right? Maybe you don't give your best answer, maybe you're on a false track, and the interviewer is trying to help you to course correct. Like, believe it or not, yes, this does actually exist, right? What happens here is that some candidates do understand when their interviewer is asking them to course correct, and therefore, address this and are far more likely to be successful in their interviews, while others will not understand that the interviewer is just trying to help them here, right? This would be scenario number 3, where there is a significant difference between candidates who do understand that to course correct and ones who don't understand to course correct. And remember, I said in the beginning of the video, there is one key for all of these candidates to pass their interviews. And the 4th scenario, like talk about here, is for candidates to spot on whether a question it's a technical or a behavioral question, right? Because what happens here is some candidates would interpret a technical question as a purely behavioral one, and therefore, give a so-so boring answer, or at best, an answer that would only be the start of a conversation, right? Or vice versa. If they ask you a purely behavioral question, tell me about the time when you did not get along with someone, to a technical audience, to a software development engineer, and you wouldn't understand it's a behavioral question, and you just think about some technicality, but you would forget the fact that, hey, yes, the reason why I would ask you this, because they want to see whether if I get along with people, so you could find your technical example, I did not get along with someone, and put the blame on the other guy was wrong, I was right, the company was like this, but, essentially, you wouldn't give the best type of answer if you wouldn't understand the question is a purely behavioral one, right? So in other words, you wouldn't understand why the question gets asked, right? So in all of those 4 scenarios, which I just presented you, there is one skill that makes the difference within these job interviews, which I believe is key to pass, including Amazon interviews, or I should say especially Amazon interviews. That's listening skills, right? So I mentioned, when you prepare all the possible questions, you do it because you want to develop your listening skills, unless you have them already, right? Because if you knew why they ask you the question, you would automatically give the best answer. If you know what to listen for in their questions, automatically you're far more likely. Then I talked about the best backbone test. If you know how to listen for the backbone test, you're more likely to pass it, right? Course correcting, the interviewer tries to help you. If you have listening skills, you will understand this. You're far more likely to be in a better spot. Whereas if you don't have listening skills, you won't, right? And with the technical or behavioral types of questions, again, listening skills. And I would even dare to say there's a number 5 scenario here where people already have great listening skills, because they do this for a living, such myself, an interview coach. It took me 1 year of full-time coaching, job interviews, primarily with Amazon, to really understand what listening skills actually mean, right? And it wasn't the first time I was coaching people by any means. I did this for a number of years previously as well, right? So long story short, in my opinion, listening skills, the better you develop your listening skills and the better you focus on listening during your Amazon interview, you are also in the best possible spot to pass it. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.